The crystalline spires of Meridia Prime glittered under the light of 3 moons. The capital planet of the Meridian Empire was a testament to 4 centuries of unrivaled galactic dominance, a perfect jewel at the center of 1,000 conquered worlds. Commander Talia Vex stood on the observation deck of the Imperial Defense Academy, watching cadets perform precision flight maneuvers in training skimmers. Her violet eyes, characteristic of the Meridian elite, tracked their movements with a critical gaze. At 32, she was young for her rank, but her tactical brilliance had earned her both respect and suspicion among the high command. Faster on the port turns, 3rd Squadron. She called through the comm system. The Druithi pirates won't give you time to adjust your vector. The pilots corrected immediately, their formation tightening as they executed a perfect defensive pattern. Talia allowed herself a small smile. These cadets might actually survive their first deployment. Her wrist communicator pulsed with a priority alert. She frowned, tapping the device to activate the holographic display. Security protocols immediately engage, creating a privacy field around her. Commander Vex, came the tense voice of Admiral Corvin, her superior. Report to Central Command immediately. Code Obsidian. Talia's blood went cold. Code Obsidian, unknown fleet detection. In 400 years of Imperial dominance, it had been triggered only twice. Acknowledge, she replied, already moving toward the exit. Squadron Command transferring to Lieutenant Nerex. The central spire of Imperial Command rose half a kilometer into the sky, its obsidian surface reflecting the city below like a dark mirror. Talia's security clearance whisked her through checkpoints and up to the 98th floor. When the doors to the war room slid open, the tension hit her like a physical force. 24 high-ranking officers stood around the central projection table. Above it hovered the holographic image of Meridia Prime. And in high orbit, a formation of ships unlike anything in the Imperial Registry. 17 vessels, Admiral Corvin was saying, his scaled fingers manipulating the display to zoom in on one of the intruders. Design unknown. No energy signatures matching any catalog species. They appeared simultaneously at precisely 7:43 hours. No warp signatures, no jump distortion. Weapons status? Asked General Viren, the head of planetary defense. Unknown. They're running minimal power. No shields detected, but their hull composition is unusual. Our scans can't penetrate it. Talia studied the ships. They were sleek, angular vessels with sharp lines and matte black surfaces that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Each featured distinctive red markings along the hull, symbols or writing, perhaps. Have they responded to communications? She asked. The room went quiet, and several officers turned to look at her. Admiral Corvin's expression darkened. They have not transmitted or responded to any hails, Commander, he said. But we have received this. He gestured, and a holographic display changed. A simple text message appeared, written in perfect Meridian script. We remember. That's all, Talia asked. No demands or threats. Nothing else, confirmed the communications officer. The message was broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously, in all 17 major Imperial languages. Supreme Chancellor Drex entered the room, his ceremonial armor glinting under the harsh lights. The officers immediately stood at attention. Deploy the home fleet, he ordered without preamble. I want every defensive platform online and targeting those vessels. If they so much as adjust their orbit, I want them destroyed. Chancellor, Talia said, stepping forward despite protocol. With respect, we don't know their capabilities or intentions. A show of force might provoke. I know exactly what their intentions are, Commander. Drex cut her off, his voice cold. Those are human ships. A murmur swept through the room. Humans. Impossible. According to Imperial history, humans were a primitive species that had attempted early space colonization, but ultimately destroyed themselves through internal conflict. Their few surviving colonies had been assimilated centuries ago. Humans don't possess this level of technology, General Viren said, voicing what everyone was thinking. Evidently, they do, Chancellor Drex replied. And now they've found us. Talia's mind raced. Something wasn't right. The official record stated clearly that humans had never developed beyond rudimentary faster-than-light travel. Their colonies had been isolated, vulnerable. How could they have built a fleet that could bypass the Empire's detection grid? Commander Vex, the Chancellor said, interrupting her thoughts. You've studied historical warfare. What do you make of their formation? Talia examined the arrangement of ships more carefully. It's not an attack formation, she said finally. It's defensive, designed to protect against attacks from any vector while maintaining maximum sensor coverage. They're here to observe, not to fight. At least, not yet. Chancellor Drex's expression was unreadable. Your assessment is noted. Nevertheless, I want battle groups deployed. Admiral Corvin, you have operational command. Commander Vex, report to data archives. Review everything we have on human warfare tactics. I want a full threat assessment within 6 hours. As the meeting concluded, Talia made her way to the Imperial Archives. The massive database contained records going back to the founding of the Empire. She input her clearance codes and began searching for information on humans. The results were surprisingly sparse. Basic biological data, some cultural notes, and a brief history of their failed expansion attempts. Nothing that explained how they could have developed the technology displayed by the ships in orbit. Curious, she initiated a deeper search, using her military override to access classified sections. A warning flashed on her screen. Recordigas restricted. Imperial DECRE 476-82. CLE and CELEVL. Supreme Cowan Seal only. Talia hesitated. Accessing files above her clearance would be considered treason. But those ships above Meridia weren't supposed to exist. Something wasn't adding up. She implemented a bypass algorithm she developed years ago, but never dared to use. The screen flickered, then displayed a database she'd never seen before, Project Stardust. The first file was a military report dated 327 years earlier. Operation Stardust complete. Human colony ZX-419 eliminated. No survivors. Planet resources secured for Imperial development. Historical records modified per standard protocol. Recommendation: classify humans as self-exterminated species to prevent investigation. Talia's hands trembled as she opened file after file. The truth emerged with horrifying clarity. The early Meridian Empire had systematically exterminated human colonies, not because they were a threat, but because their worlds were rich in resources the Empire coveted. The official history, that humans had destroyed themselves, was a fabrication. Her communicator chimed. Admiral Corvin's voice came through, tense and urgent. Commander, report to the communications center immediately. The human ships are broadcasting. When Talia arrived, the main screen showed a human face. Male, perhaps in his 40s, with dark skin and gray-streaked hair. His expression was calm but resolute. People of the Meridian Empire, he said, his voice translated perfectly into Meridian. I am Fleet Commander Thomas Reed of the Earth Defense Force. For 3 centuries, your empire has propagated the lie that humanity destroyed itself. Today, that lie ends. The image change, showing historical footage. Imperial warships bombarding defenseless human colonies, troops executing civilians, entire cities burning. We did not destroy ourselves. Reed continued as the footage played. Your empire attempted to destroy us in an unprovoked genocide, but some of us escaped. We hid. We rebuilt. We remembered. The transmission cut to images of a thriving world, clearly a human planet with advanced cities and orbital structures. We are not here for revenge, Reed said, his face returning to the screen. We are here for truth, for acknowledgement. Your people deserve to know the history your leaders have hidden. We will remain in orbit for 7 days. We await your response." The transmission ended. The communication center was silent. They had broadcast this across the entire empire. The communications officer whispered, "Every planet, every station, every ship." Talia's mind raced. The classified files she'd just read confirmed everything Reed had said. The Empire's foundation was built on genocide and lies. Her communicator activated again. Chancellor Drex's voice came through, cold with fury. "Commander Vex, my office. Now." As she made her way to the Chancellor's chambers, Talia knew she faced a choice. The empire she had served loyally her entire life was built on atrocities. The humans above weren't invaders. They were survivors seeking justice. But Chancellor Drex would never acknowledge the truth. He would order an attack, starting a war the empire might not survive. When she entered his office, Drex was standing at the window, looking up at the sky where, invisible from the surface, the human ships waited. "Commander," he said without turning, "I'm deploying the 7th Fleet from the outer sector. They'll arrive in 6 hours. When they do, we will eliminate this human threat once and for all." "Sir," Talia said carefully, "I've reviewed the historical records. Commander Reed's claims appear to be irrelevant." Drex cut her off. "Even if there were irregularities in our early expansion, that was centuries ago. The stability of the Empire today is what matters. The people have seen the transmission. They know. They know what terrorists claim." Drex snapped, finally turning to face her. "These humans have hacked our communication systems and spread propaganda. We will crush them, and then we will ensure the correct narrative is restored." Talia realized in that moment that nothing would change. The Empire would continue its pattern of lies and violence, unless someone took a stand. "I understand, Chancellor," she said, her decision made. "What are your orders?" "Return to the war room. Coordinate with Admiral Corvin on fleet deployment. I want a plan that will overwhelm these humans before they can react." Talia nodded and left the office. But instead of heading to the war room, she made her way to a secure communication station in a rarely used section of the command center. Using her security codes, she established a heavily encrypted channel. "This is Commander Talia Vex of the Meridian Imperial Forces," she said softly. "I need to speak with Commander Reed. I have information he needs to know, and a proposal that might prevent a war." Above Meridia Prime, the human ships adjusted their positions slightly, maintaining their defensive formation as they received her transmission. The future of two species now hung in the balance. The secure communication chamber was silent except for the soft hum of encrypted systems. Talia's heart pounded as she waited for a response to her transmission. What she was doing constituted high treason, punishable by death under Imperial law. The screen flickered to life. Commander Reed's face appeared, his expression cautious but curious. "Commander Vex," he said, his voice low and measured. "I'm surprised to receive a private communication from an Imperial officer." "I've accessed the classified archives," Talia replied without preamble. "Project Stardust, the systematic elimination of human colonies, the historical revisionism. It's all true." Reed's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. "And why are you telling me this?" "Because in 6 hours, the 7th Fleet will arrive from the outer sector with orders to destroy your ships. Chancellor Drex has no intention of acknowledging the truth. He'll bury it again, along with your people." "So this is a warning?" Reed asked. "It's more than that," Talia said, leaning closer to the screen. "It's an offer of alliance. There are those within the Empire who would stand against this deception if they knew the truth. I can help you reach them." For a long moment, Reed studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. "Why would you betray your empire, Commander?" Talia hadn't fully examined her own motivations until that moment. "Because I swore an oath to protect the people of the Meridian Empire. Not their lies, not their crimes. The people deserve the truth." Reed nodded slowly. "What do you propose?" I need access to your historical records, everything you have on the initial contact and subsequent genocide. I'll compile it with the classified Imperial files I discovered. Together, they'll form an undeniable record of what happened. And then, I have contacts in the Planetary Council, representatives from worlds across the Empire. If I can get this evidence to them before the 7th Fleet arrives, they might be able to prevent an attack. Reed considered this, then nodded. I'll have our records transmitted on this secure channel. His expression hardened. But understand this, Commander Vex, if this is some kind of trap, my ships are prepared to defend themselves. We didn't come seeking war, but we're ready for one. So is the Empire, Talia replied grimly. That's why we need to prevent it. After receiving the human historical records, Talia worked quickly, compiling them with the Imperial files she downloaded. The combined evidence was damning. Detailed accounts of the deliberate targeting of human colonies, the exploitation of their resources, and the systematic erasure of these actions from official history. She encrypted the compiled data and sent it to 5 key members of the Planetary Council, representatives she believed would prioritize truth over imperial loyalty. With that done, she made her way to the one person within the military she trusted completely. Admiral Elias Krev had been her mentor since her earliest days at the Academy. Now in his 70s, he commanded respect even from those who disagreed with his occasionally unorthodox views. You've started something that can't be stopped, he said after reviewing the evidence in his private quarters. The Chancellor will have you executed for this. Only if he wins, Talia replied. The question is, which side will you be on when the 7th Fleet arrives? Krebs' weathered face revealed nothing. You're asking me to choose between my oath to the Empire and my conscience. I'm asking you to honor your oath to the people, Talia countered. The Empire has betrayed them with lies for centuries. Before Krev could respond, Talia's communicator chimed with an urgent alert. Chancellor Drex had ordered her arrest on charges of treason. Security forces were already searching the command center for her. You need to go, Krev said, his decision made. Take my personal shuttle. The authorization codes will get you past the orbital checkpoints. Where should I go? Talia asked, suddenly uncertain. Krebs' expression was grim. To the humans, they're your only chance now, and perhaps ours too. As Talia's shuttle cleared the atmosphere of Meridia Prime, the vastness of space stretched before her. The human fleet maintained its position, dark against the star-speckled void. She transmitted her identification and requested permission to dock. The largest of the human vessels, the one Commander Reed had broadcast from, opened a small hangar bay. As Talia guided the shuttle inside, she fought to calm her racing thoughts. She was about to become the first Meridian to set foot on a human ship in over 3 centuries. The docking procedure completed automatically. When the airlock opened, she was met by armed guards, professional and alert, but not overtly hostile. They escorted her through corridors of matte black material interspersed with sections of transparent alloy that revealed the stars outside. Commander Reed waited in what appeared to be a briefing room. In person, he was taller than she'd expected, with an air of quiet authority. Commander Vex, he said, gesturing to a seat across from him. Welcome aboard the Earth vessel Remembrance. Thank you for not shooting down my shuttle, she replied, taking the offered seat. That would have somewhat undermined our claim of peaceful intentions, Reed said with a hint of dry humor. Though I admit, having an Imperial commander defect was not part of our anticipated scenarios. I haven't defected, Talia corrected him. I'm trying to prevent a war. Reed's expression grew serious. It may be too late for that. Our sensors detected the 7th Fleet exiting hyperspace at the edge of the system. They'll reach Meridia Prime in less than an hour, ahead of schedule. Talia felt a chill. Chancellor Drex must have ordered them to maximum burn. He's desperate to silence your message. He's also jamming all planetary communications, Reed added. Your transmission to the Planetary Council members was intercepted. Talia's hope faltered. Then it's over. The evidence won't reach them in time. Perhaps not through Imperial channels, Reed said. But we have our own methods. While you were en route to our ship, we transmitted the compiled evidence directly to public information networks on every major Meridian world. How? The Imperial communications grid is heavily secured. Reed smiled for the first time. Humans have had 3 centuries to study Meridian technology, Commander. Your security systems are impressive, but not impenetrable. On the main screen, images appeared of protests erupting across Meridian worlds. Citizens were gathering in public squares, demanding answers from their leaders. The truth was spreading faster than the Empire could contain it. Chancellor Drex will declare martial law, Talia said, analyzing the situation. He'll claim the protests are being instigated by human infiltrators. He already has, Reed confirmed, switching the display to an Imperial broadcast. Chancellor Drex was addressing the Empire, his face hardened with righteous indignation as he denounced terrorist propaganda and ordered citizens to remain in their homes. The 7th Fleet will still attack your ships, Talia said, and your 17 vessels can't stand against them. Reed's expression remained calm. 17 vessels is what we allowed your sensors to detect, Commander. At that moment, alarms sounded throughout the ship. On the tactical display, hundreds of new signatures appeared, emerging from what had seemed to be empty space around Meridia Prime. A vast human fleet had been there all along, hidden by technology the Meridians couldn't detect. We came prepared for either outcome, Reed explained. Peace or war. Talia stared at the display in shock. The human fleet outnumbered the approaching 7th Fleet 3-1. You could have attacked at any time, she realized. You could have destroyed Meridia Prime without warning. That's not who we are, Reed said firmly. Despite what was done to us, we didn't come for revenge. We came for truth. He turned to face her directly. What happens next depends on your people's choice. The situation on Meridia Prime was deteriorating rapidly. The combined evidence of Imperial genocide had sparked mass protests across the capital. Imperial security forces struggled to maintain control as citizens demanded answers. In the Planetary Council chambers, representatives from dozens of worlds viewed the human and Imperial records with growing horror. The Vice-Chancellor, Saren Vox, called for an emergency session to address the crisis. Aboard the Remembrance, Talia and Commander Reed watched the political chaos unfold through intercepted broadcasts. The 7th Fleet has taken up attack positions, reported a human tactical officer. Their weapons are charged and targeting our vessels. Hold position, Reed ordered. Defensive shields only. No offensive actions unless fired upon. Talia's communicator activated with an Imperial priority signal. To her surprise, it was Admiral Krev. Talia, he said, his image flickering with interference. The situation is critical. Chancellor Drex has ordered the 7th Fleet to fire on the human ships regardless of their stance. That would start a war the Empire might not survive. Talia responded. I know, Krebs said grimly. That's why Vice-Chancellor Vox and the Planetary Council have invoked Emergency Protocol 37. Talia's eyes widened. Emergency Protocol 37 was a rarely discussed contingency that allowed the Planetary Council to temporarily assume command of Imperial forces if the Chancellor was deemed unfit to lead. Drex has been relieved of command, Krev continued. I've been appointed acting military commander until the crisis is resolved. And the 7th Fleet? Reed asked, joining the conversation. Standing down, Krev confirmed. For now. But the situation remains volatile. Commander Vex, your presence is requested at an emergency council session, along with human representatives. The council is prepared to acknowledge the historical truth and discuss reparations. Talia looked to Reed, who nodded thoughtfully. We accept the invitation, he said. A delegation will accompany Commander Vex to the council chambers. 6 hours later, Talia stood in the Grand Planetary Council chamber, now filled beyond capacity with representatives from across the Empire. Beside her stood Commander Reed and 3 other human diplomats. The evidence of imperial genocide against human colonies was displayed for all to see. Vice-Chancellor Vox, a tall, silver-haired Meridian woman with a reputation for integrity, addressed the assembly. For centuries, our empire has built its prosperity on a foundation of lies, she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. Today, we acknowledge the truth of our past. The systematic elimination of human colonies in the early days of our expansion was not merely a crime. It was the beginning of a pattern of conquest and deception that has defined imperial policy ever since. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many representatives looked shocked, others angry, some deeply ashamed. The humans who have returned to us today did not come seeking vengeance for these atrocities, Vox continued. They came seeking acknowledgement, justice, and a new beginning. It is time for the Meridian Empire to demonstrate that we are capable of both. Commander Reed stepped forward to address the council. Humanity has no desire to destroy what you have built, he said, but we cannot allow the truth to be buried again. We propose a treaty, one that acknowledges the past and establishes a framework for cooperation in the future. The debate that followed was intense. Some imperial hardliners insisted that admitting such historical crimes would destabilize the empire. Others argued that continuing to hide the truth would be an even greater threat to stability. As the council session stretched into its fifth hour, news arrived that changed everything. Chancellor Drex, refusing to accept his removal from power, had barricaded himself in the Imperial Military Command Center with a group of loyal officers. They had activated the planetary defense system and were threatening to fire on both the human fleet and any Imperial vessels that opposed them. "This is exactly what I warned about," Talia said to Reed as they hurried from the council chambers to the emergency command post established by Admiral Krev. Drex would rather destroy everything than admit the Empire's guilt. "Then we need to stop him," Reed said simply. What followed was a joint human-Meridian operation, unlike anything in Imperial history. Using human stealth technology and Talia's knowledge of Imperial defense systems, a small team infiltrated the command center. The confrontation with Chancellor Drex was brief but tense. Surrounded by forces he couldn't defeat, the Chancellor finally surrendered. Though his expression promised that the ideological battle was far from over. 3 days later, Talia stood on the observation deck of the Imperial Defense Academy, where her journey had begun. Beside her, Commander Reed looked out at the glittering spires of Meridia Prime. "The Treaty of Reconciliation has been ratified by the Planetary Council," Talia said. "The Empire will formally acknowledge the genocide of human colonies and establish a historical commission to uncover the full truth." "And the reparations?" Reed asked. "Resource-sharing agreements for the worlds that were taken from your people. Joint colonization rights in the unclaimed sectors. It's not perfect, but it's a start." Reed nodded, his expression thoughtful. "And what happens to you, Commander? I imagine not everyone in the Empire appreciates your role in all this." Talia smiled faintly. "I've been appointed to lead the new Joint Security Force, Meridians and humans working together to maintain peace along the border regions. Apparently, being branded a traitor one day and a hero the next qualifies me for diplomatic work." "There will be resistance," Reed warned. 3 centuries of lies won't be undone in a day." "I know," Talia agreed. "But for the first time in Imperial history, we're building something on truth instead of deception. That has to be worth the struggle." Above them, human and Meridian ships moved in coordinated patterns, no longer adversaries but allies in a fragile new peace. The path forward would not be easy, but as Talia watched the ships against the backdrop of stars, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. The Empire had been forced to confront the darkest chapter of its past. In doing so, it had opened the door to a future that neither humans nor Meridians could have imagined just days before. A future built not on conquest and lies, but on acknowledgement, reconciliation, and the shared determination to move forward together. "Commander Vex," Reed said as they turned to leave the observation deck, "there's an old human saying, The truth shall set you free. I think your empire is about to discover what that really means. So are we all, Talia replied, stepping forward into an uncertain but hopeful new era.